What's up? Welcome to another episode of Dingers and Stingers, the only podcast. Um, this week we're diving into some more baseball news. The off season has officially heated up. I believe the baseball people refer to this as the hot stove. Is this correct?
The stove is hot. It
Yeah.
has its moments, despite the long off season. Maybe like once a month, there's a couple day period where it's just like, ooh, it's sizzling. The stove is on.
Yeah, we joked about it last week, and we've talked about it multiple times. It's felt like we'll get like a little tease every once in a while. One guy will make a move or one team makes a move, and then also this week it just like it cooked. We've got a lot of moves that happened this week that we're gonna get to. Trades, free agency, all sorts of stuff. Hall of Fame stuff. Like we've got a pretty like stacked lineup here, and I'm excited. I'm bummed that our boy Dallas won't be here. Obviously, you can see it is only myself and Drew here with you guys this week. Dallas, rest in peace. He is still on a work trip. So hopefully he comes back and still wants to be a part of this. But we're gonna dive right in. We got stuff to talk about, so we're just gonna go with the first one here. Um, Bo Bichette has officially signed. Bo Bichette has found a team. He is no longer with the Blue Jays. Um, he has signed a 3-year contract with the Mets, which is very interesting considering kind of all the off-season drama that's revolved around the Mets. And then they are still kind of the team that ends up finding a lot of these players and acquiring a lot of players. And it seems like, maybe money just talks. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the Mets, so when we recorded last week, it was mere minutes after Kyle Tucker, it was announced, was signing with the Dodgers. And the Mets were a team that was in on Kyle Tucker, offered him a similar short-term, high AAV type of deal that he ended up getting with the Dodgers. Um, and so obviously the Mets missed out. And then the very next day, they made their pivot and they signed Bo Bichette to a similar short-term opt-out, high AAV type contract. So seems like even though the Blue Jays were rumored in all these guys, they don't really end up with any of them. And then the Phillies were in on Bo Bichette. It sounded like on a longer term, less AAV type of deal. In the end, Bichette is it's kind of like what Bregman did with the Red Sox last year. It's not that different. It's 3 years for about 42 million a year. Bregman's was 40 million a year with deferral, so like I don't know exactly what it would have been, but it's another prove it thing for Bo Bichette. Like, okay, I'm only 28. Let me go off in New York this year. And if I do, I opt out and I make more money next offseason. And if I don't, then I can opt in and get another $42 million from the Mets. So it makes sense from the player standpoint. And for the Mets, who had made a lot of moves this offseason, really changed the dynamic of their team, they had yet to really get that big fish. And they actually got another one. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, they needed a bat in their lineup. Bo Bichette will do that. So yeah, I like the move. For now, the Mets can afford to do this type of thing with the qualifying offer attached and everything. But I think it's probably going to be a 1 year deal, and we'll see what that means if they regret it. Because I know I regretted the Red Sox doing it with Alex Bregman.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see how it works out. I mean, it seems like there's going to be a natural fit. They kind of vacated that second base position, and we're able to fill it immediately with Bo Bichette. Obviously, he is the type of guy who can, play at the top of the lineup. Do we see, Lindor move down a little bit in the lineup? It's going to be interesting to see kind of where they position these guys in that top four. But Bo Bichette, my best guess is that he'll be batting somewhere in the top four of that lineup, and I'm excited to see where. But moving right along, another guy who this one surprised me. I thought he was going to end up somewhere else. but turns out he's staying right at home, and unfortunately, it's another great fit for that team. Uh, we got Cody Bellinger re-signing with the Yankees. He is back for 5 years, $162.5 million. Um, there was talks that maybe Trent Grisham accepting that qualifying offer kind of ruined the Yankees offseason plans of how they could spend and where they were going to kind of attack this free agency market. But in the end, they are able to re-sign Cody Bellinger, and they're able to re-sign him to a pretty solid deal here. I mean, this is a pretty good contract considering I think he was searching for 7 years was I think what he was pushing for. So it seems like they kind of found some middle ground. But Cody Bellinger back with the Yankees, you get to see him quite a bit over the next 5 years.
Yeah, yeah, it's 5 years. I think there's opt-outs after like the second year and the third year or something. I don't remember exactly, but it's interesting. Cody Bellinger, Kyle Schwarber, Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, these were four of the biggest bats available in free agency. They all sign 5 year contracts within about $20 million total of each other. So that's kind of interesting how that worked out. Um, but yeah, Bellinger back to the Yankees kind of always needed to happen for the Yankees. It was similar to Bregman with the Red Sox, except they actually were able to get it done. Maybe an overpay. I don't know if that really matters, especially when you're a team like the Yankees. They needed him back. He was probably the second best player on their team from start to finish last year. Obviously, Aaron Judge being the best, and he brings some versatility. He can play first base. He can play all three outfield positions. He's a good bat. He's left-handed, but he doesn't do poorly against left-handed pitchers. It's a good move for the Yankees. Make no mistakes about it. But at the same time, he was already on the Yankees, and we weren't that impressed by the Yankees last year. And granted, they'll have like Garrett Cole back this year, but like the Yankees have yet to really add an impact player who wasn't on their team last year. And so their offseason, as big of a win as this is for them, it just gets them back to square one, in my opinion. So you still have Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones on your team. You haven't swung the big trade. I know they got Ryan Weathers from the Marlins. I don't know how much that moves the needle. We'll see. But as far as the Yankees offseason goes, this was an absolute necessary step to having any type of good offseason. At the same time, it gets you to like a passing grade. It doesn't get you to a plus. You need to add more. And Yankees fans know that better than anyone. So, despite some of the downs of this Red Sox offseason, I've always had the little like silver lining that the Yankees are having a worse one. And I think you look at the division, the Orioles have gotten a lot better. The Blue Jays almost won the World Series and then, added a lot of payroll. Red Sox had lost Bregman, but they've added pitching and they've added Wilson Contreras, and the Yankees are sitting there back to square one, and a year older everywhere. They're not a
Hmm.
young team, so there has to be more. But for now, I like that there hasn't been.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, good for the Yankees, but also on the Yankees, right? Like this podcast is not a fan of the Yankees, so bummer. I like Cody Bellinger, wish he wasn't there. But we move on. Uh, the next one, this one hits home a little bit for me. This is a guy over the past year I've talked about on a number of occasions. Um, Shout out NFL Network, talking about our teams right there. It This is a guy who's been in trade rumors seemingly since I became a fan of baseball, and he's just never been traded. But every offseason, every trade deadline, it's like, this is the guy who's going to get traded, and just isn't. Uh, Finally, he's been traded, and he's been traded to a team who I said just continues to keep acquiring people. Luis Robert has been traded to the Mets. Initial reports were it so they got Luis Angel Acuna, they got Ronald Acuna Jr., and then they also got I believe it's his little brother, is it not?
It is his brother, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure it's his little brother. Um, and then verbatim, another guy. So
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I didn't look it up. Another minor
I
leaguer.
I was gonna say I remember seeing the trade details on Twitter, and to be honest, I didn't recognize the name, so I'm not sure that I would be able to say it with much confidence. Anyway, they got Luis Angel Jr. They got Acuna, and then they get another prospect, and so
Truman Polly.
yeah, that guy. Um, and so Luis Robert goes to the Mets. This I don't know that this necessarily fills a need, but it is a change of scenery, which I think a lot of people have been wanting for Luis Robert. Um, he goes to a lineup where he clearly does not need to be the star of this team. They have a lot of people hitting around him that are going to plainly be better. Um, but sometimes that works. Sometimes that can bring out the best in a guy is when you're not expected to be the star and you can bat maybe fifth in the lineup and there's not like a ton of pressure on you to be the guy carrying that team and carrying that lineup. And then he's just going to be out in the outfield. So what do you think, man? This finally this trade happens. Finally, Luis Robert gets moved. Um, yeah, I was a little bit shocked. I didn't hear many inklings that this was something they were talking about, and then it just all of a sudden was like, oh, well, he's a Met.
Yeah, it wasn't something I was seeing, trickling in for a couple days. It just kind of happened. I like the move for the Mets. I think the White Sox held on to him too long.
Yeah.
Traded him really any time before this. They might have been able to get more for him. And I like the move for Luis Robert. I know the White Sox, when he came up, looked like a very promising team, and that just never came to fruition, really. And then they became the worst team in baseball. All the while he was like the one guy who was still there through it all. Um, and he's only 28 years old still. He's $20
Hmm.
million this year, and then there's a $20 million club option for next year too. So the Mets can decide if they want to keep him for 2 years, and they didn't give up that much to get him. And the upside, we've seen the upside. He's a 40 home run bat. He's Gold Glove defense in center field. Um, and granted, it's been a couple years since we've seen that, but it's also been a couple years on the terrible, terrible White Sox. So I do wonder if, not that the Mets are known for their great vibes, but they have made a what seems like a concerted effort to changing the vibe over there. So they
Hmm.
still have Lindor. I think he's a good vibe. Juan Soto, I don't know what we think about his vibe, but he's a very, very, very good baseball player. Um, and they're all Latin guys. I think that matters. I know Juan Soto
Hmm.
has that detail in his contract that he needs a certain amount of Latin guys on the team, but beyond that, I think like they do gel better together, and I think you know Luis Robert in center, Juan Soto in right, uh, Lindor at shortstop. I think it's just going to be some fun.
Bo Bichette at
Maybe
second.
maybe they can chill. Like, well, Simeon at second. Bichette's going to play third, I think, and then
Oh, really? I
yeah, and
forgot that they
then
got Marcus Semien, dude.
yeah. They don't have Brandon Nimmo anymore. They got Marcus Simeon. Jorge Polanco is allegedly going to play first base, but we'll see. They got Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos still kicking over there. I'm curious to see the Mets. Like they're going to be a team I'm really excited to see. And again, there's still one more trade they made that we're going to talk about, but um, I hope for Robert that he can be like what you said. He's no longer like the guy. He's
Hmm.
like guy number 4 or 5. And if he can relax and if he can have fun and play his game again, he's only 28 years old. I wouldn't be stunned to see another 40 home run year from him, and this is the steal of the offseason.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting that, like I'm not penciling that in, but if that happens, I don't think anyone will be like stunned.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's the whole reason that he's seen as like the jewel of the trade market every single time it comes up, right? It's because everyone has seen what he can be and what he is like at his peak. And he's had a couple health issues, he's had a couple injuries. But at the end of the day, this is still just a superstar who was dying on a dying team. And that's not uncommon. And I think the other thing that, people talk about is well, it's yeah, we both mentioned it. It's the fact that he's not gonna have the same pressure. And it's more gonna be like, can he just learn to have fun again. And as weird as that sounds, talking about that with a $20 million contract and being a professional, like it's still at the end of the day, like you got to have fun playing the game. Otherwise, like especially a game like baseball that is so like even the Hall of Fame players, if you think statistically, are like kind of bad. You know what I'm saying? Like you get how many at bats in a season and you're only going to hit 40 home runs? You get how many at bats in a season and you're only going to hit 200, or you're only going to hit like 280 if you're really good. Like
Mm.
it's not a sport that you succeed a lot to be good at. And so when you're bad, it's just even that more deflating. And so I think, with that, it's like I think we were both rooting for him. I'm bummed that he's a Met because I wanted him to be a Padre. But I think we're both rooting for him. He's a fun player, and I think he's going to be good there. I really do. I think he's going to have success, like you said. And I'm excited to see what he does because you named a lot more guys that I had forgotten about that are going to be on that team,
Totally
and
different Mets team, yeah.
it's a total different team. And like you said, they still got Mark Vientos, they still have Brett Beatty, and now they've added Luis Robert, and it's like all of a sudden he might not even. I assume he's going to bat fifth or sixth, but like he could bat even lower. Like there's real potential, and so it's going to be interesting. And I just hope that he has fun with it. Like I don't know. I don't want the Mets to be bad, and I don't want them to be the worst New York team. So I guess good for them. But we'll move right along here. Guys, the Mets are having fun, right? We want Luis Robert to have fun. The Mets are having fun. They've made another notable trade. This is another one that was on my Christmas wish list for the Padres. You guys took the other one. Freddy Peralta was traded to the Mets. The ace for the Brewers still has a little bit of control left. Was officially traded. Initially, the reports I was seeing coming from passing tweets was that their asking price was Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat, and that the Mets were unwilling to match that price. And that was the tweet, and that was the news, that was the rumors, and then like 24 hours later, trade confirmed, and it is exactly for Jet Williams and Brandon Sprout. Maybe Tobias Myers, who also goes to the Mets in this trade, was the big thing that kind of took it over the edge. Um, I don't know who Tobias Myers is, but maybe the Mets do. Maybe the Mets really like this guy. But yeah, so they've added all these players. They add Bichette, they add Luis Robert, and now they add to their pitching staff. I mean, Freddie Peralta, this is their ace, right? They just got their ace. Um, Looking at that rotation, I don't think I see another guy who, in my opinion, I would put above Freddie Peralta.
Yeah, they got their ace for sure. For at least this year, he's on one year left, but it was still a high price to pay because he's only $8 million, and you said it, he's an ace starting pitcher. I have no doubt that the Brewers will maximize that return. Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams will become stars in Milwaukee, and that's a relative term because they'll be really, really good, but like nobody will know who they are. And then yeah, but I think Freddie Peralta will thrive. I think he's one of the better pitchers in baseball. He's only 29, 1 year left, but I think that he will, like, the Mets are a team that's much more inclined, much more likely to give him a fair contract extension offer. The Brewers just don't operate that way, for better or for worse. But the Mets will, and I think similar to like what we saw the Red Sox do with Garrett Crochet last year, we've seen it in the past. I don't think they give up Brandon Sproat specifically, or both prospects, but specifically Sproat, without thinking that they have a chance to keep Freddie Peralta around for the long term, because he would be the perfect guy for really any team to extend, give him a nice like 5-6 year deal, give him some money, and lock him into the front of your rotation for the next little while. And he, like, I'm not saying he has to be the best pitcher they have for the next 5 years, but like having him locked up would be a huge, huge get for the Mets. But For
Yeah.
this year, I mean, we already talked about it. Like, totally different Mets team, looks totally different. Is it better without Edwin Diaz, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, like Jeff McNeil, like these guys that we've come to know and identify with the Mets? Um, I don't know. I mean, that's just, it remains to be seen. But I do think every move in a vacuum I've liked. I like Devin Williams going there. I like Marcus Simeon upside more than Brandon Nimmo's. I like Bo Bichette for a year. I like Luis Robert on this low risk deal. Luke Weaver signed with the Mets. And then Freddy Peralta, I think, is the best of all of them. So any team would have been lucky to trade for him. I was scared for a second because the Dodgers were in the rumors, and it's like, okay, we can't be mad at the Dodgers for spending all this money and then also trade our best players to the Dodgers. We got to at least draw the line in the sand and and agree to not trade with them anymore. Like if they're just going to sign our players
Yeah.
anyways, can we just like not send them good players? Like it's not going to work out for you. I'm sorry. It's just not going to. Um, the only time it works out is when the Dodgers just don't have room for a guy, and so they get rid of him, like Michael Bush to the Cubs. But
Well,
in
I was gonna say, I
general,
mean, they've lost what, one trade in the last
I,
15 years, and it was
like that
Jordan
Yordan
Alvarez,
Alvarez, yeah,
and Jordan Alvarez was also like 19 and was like basically just a nobody. Like,
right. Like the one time they misidentified which prospect to keep around, it's Yordan, but I don't think they have many regrets. Um,
mm,
but enough about the Dodgers. We're not even talking about them. Uh, I,
ugh.
I like I'm like the Mets. Do I think they'll be good? Do I think they'll be bad? I don't know. We'll have to wait until our preseason prediction episodes to really get into that. But they are now creeping up the list of teams I'm most interested to see in the new year.
Yeah, 100%. And I think again, it's, did they get better or worse? Like you said, we don't know. But at the end of the day, they had a team that had been in place for a while and had been there, and there was all these guys who we kind of attributed to being Mets, and it wasn't working, right? It's they make the playoffs, they have these hot and cold streaks, and they just never got over the hump. And so with these new faces, even if they're not necessarily, one-to-one comparison better necessarily, I think that just having a fresh look, a fresh feel can invigorate a team and can do a lot. And it can provide a fan base with kind of a new spark. I mean, you let some of these guys go. I'm sure Mets fans were sad to see guys like Pete Alonso go, see guys like Edwin Diaz go, but you made such a concerted effort to like replace them with quality people as well. It's not like they're just going out and saying like, well, next man up, here comes some guy from Double A. It's like, no, dude, you lost Edwin Diaz, but you got Devin Williams. You lost Pete Alonso, you replace him with a multitude of infielders. Um, and so it's going to be interesting for sure. But I think the Mets are going to be good. I mean, I would be shocked if they were bad, to be honest.
They were
And
good this past year. They just fell
yeah,
apart at the end. But like they
yeah,
were a good team
and a
for a
lot of
good
that
chunk
was
of the year.
attributed to locker room and like clubhouse vibes. And
Yeah.
a lot of the guys who were being kind of blamed for that are gone. So we'll see. We will see for sure. But we'll move right along. Another one that just kind of hits home for me, and somehow is still related to the Mets. Uh, Guys, Mackenzie Gore has been traded from the Nats to the Rangers. Drew's uncle, my condolences, but you guys kind of got a haul. Um, Mackenzie Gore was the ace of the Nats. He was the prized possession of the Padres in the trade for Juan Soto, and now he ends up on the Rangers. They got five players in return, including this last year's 12th pick, first round pick of the Rangers, amongst a number of prospects. Yeah, I mean this was a haul, and I saw this tweet earlier that was talking like, in 2035, the trade tree of Juan Soto is going to be like a whole team's worth of players. And it's just going to turn into this like fun butterfly effect of like, man, what did Juan Soto make into the league? Um, and here's, one of the first dominoes for that. Because, Mackenzie Gore was like, I would argue maybe the premier piece of that trade. Um, and now he's gone. So Nats, Rangers, Mackenzie Gore, what do you think?
I think it's interesting. Mackenzie Gore was a hot name in the, trade rumors, simply because the Nationals are not very good. They seemed further away from competitive baseball than we thought going into last year. So, they fired their manager, they fired the front office, and have started from scratch there. Um, I'm I I hesitantly like it for the Rangers because Mackenzie Gore, the highs are very high. He has nasty stuff. He can make guys swing and miss all the time, but like the lows are a lot lower than what you would want for like an ace pitcher.
Yeah.
So he's not a sure thing. I think he was kind of being treated like in the same vein as like a Freddy Peralta or a Joe Ryan, where it's like you know what you're gonna get. You don't necessarily know what you're gonna get. But I like that it's the Rangers who had the best pitching staff in baseball last year. Jacob DeGrom, Nathan Eovaldi. They lost Tyler Mahle, and they're gonna, replace him with Mackenzie Gore. I think that's a good trade-off. I do think the interesting wrinkle. I'm not going to pretend to know who all these prospects are because I'm just not that type of fan. But uh, the 12th pick in the draft last year, Gavin Fine. I'm not even sure how you say it. I saw people bring this up on Twitter. Um, I guess the people who are really into the draft had known that he was like the Red Sox big preference at the draft last year, and then he got drafted before our pick. But the guy who is running the Nationals right now came from our front office, so like
Hmm.
clearly that's like a guy he might like. We'll see. I don't know. That's just kind of an interesting nugget to me. I'm interested
Yeah.
in what the Nationals are doing since it's a guy who just came from the Red Sox. But regardless, it signals the Nationals are in full blown rebuild mode. We'll see if other moves are made from this. C.J. Abrams has been floated in rumors. I don't think James Wood is going anywhere. He still has so much time of control, and if it's not Mackenzie Gore, then he's the prize of that Juan Soto trade, I would say. But yeah, the Nationals. I don't know. It might be another year of some boring baseball out there in DC, but you got to be at least a little encouraged by the direction they're heading.
Yeah, I mean it's tough, right? Because they did what you're supposed to do when you're kind of coming to an end of an era. You're supposed to kind of tear down to the roots, keep the young core, and try and rebuild through halls of prospects, right? They got rid of Juan Soto, and they moved on from Rendon, and they moved on from Scherzer, and they moved on from Trey Turner, and the championship team that was the Nats, they kind of tore it down to the studs and tried to restart here. And people thought that that one Soto trade was really going to be the thing that elevated them, right? They got James Wood, they got Mackenzie Gore, they got C.J. Abrams. Like they got a lot of prospects. They got Robert Hassel, who hasn't even seen the big leagues, I don't think, and he was one of our top prospects as well. And so they got all these guys, and now those guys are up in the league. And James Wood had that hot streak, and then really fell off a cliff for a while. And Mackenzie Gore's already been traded, and CJ Abrams is talking about like he's going to be traded. And so I think it is one of those bummers where it's like, you do the rebuild the proper way, and then you swing and miss on the rebuild. Like that's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow for anyone. And obviously, it resulted in people's jobs. People were fired, rightfully so. Um, But for the Rangers, I really like this because once again, Mackenzie Gore's not going to have to be the ace there, like barring injuries, right? He's going to slot in either the second or third slot in that rotation. And like you're saying, the potential is massive. Like if you're going to ask me, do I want Tyler Mahle or do I want Mackenzie Gore? I'm going to take Mackenzie Gore.
For sure.
And people talking about him having all this trade value and him being talked about like a Joe Ryan or Freddy Peralta, Mackenzie Gore's younger than both of them, and he's a lefty. Like those are both things that are very coveted. And so I really like this for the Rangers. And yes, they gave up a lot, but this is also a team who had a weirdly down year because I feel like they're a fairly young team, if I'm not mistaken. Like they've got a lot of young players who were top prospects currently in those first few years in the league for them. So I like this move. I like this move for the Rangers a lot. So yeah, I think that's kind of the big moves that have happened this
Mhm.
week, guys. That is a lot. That is five like pretty substantial moves, both free agents and trades. You can thank the Mets for really getting this all going, but guys, it's been a crazy week of the off season, and I'm sure there's going to be more coming soon. I mean, there was I just sent it to our group chat today, but Cameron Maybin is sending out his cryptic little tweets of like, "Oh, I'm getting insider scoop that there's guys who are going to change their whole team because they're starting to work in the infield and yada yada yada." And the rumors are flying in those comment sections. We got rumors about Trout. We got rumors about Nick Castellanos. We got people in there being like, "Is Aaron Judge moving out of the outfield? Could we see an Aaron Judge at first base transition?" There's a lot of stuff going on, and we're gonna see if anything comes of that. Uh, Hopefully, it doesn't happen at a time when we're not recording because it'll be fun to talk about. But we're gonna move on. There was some news for the Hall of Fame. There was a number of people who officially did not hit their cutoff to stay on the ballot. So to those players, welcome to the Hall of Pretty Good. Um, they will welcome you with open arms, I'm sure. But there's some other guys who either made it or kind of made progress in their path towards it. Um, who are those guys? I mean, who are we talking about here?
Yeah, we got two new Hall of Famers this week: Andrew Jones and Carlos Beltran, two center fielders. Which I didn't even realize this until they had made it, that it had been like we had two center fielders make it over like the last like 40 years, and then we have two in 1 year. It was like Ken Griffey Jr. and Kirby Puckett, and other than that, no center fielders had made it. And so it's just one of those positions where the standard has been held higher because some of the all-time greats have been center fielders. You know, Willie
Yeah.
Mays, Mickey Mantle, Ken Griffey Jr. was an all-time great. But Andrew Jones, Carlos Beltran, in my opinion, certainly deserving. Beltran had to wait a few years because of his involvement with the Astros cheating scandal, which was actually just his last season. But his whole body of work, he's a Hall of Fame player. So, congrats to him. And Andrew Jones is a more interesting case. It's a trend that I personally like, of rewarding guys for a really high peak, even if it wasn't a super long peak. So Andrew Jones, one of the best young players, when he came up, he was like a teenager hitting home runs in the World Series, and then he hit over 400 career home runs, but by the time he was 30, he was basically out of the league. So an interesting case, but in the end, they decide that the highs were high enough and he makes it in. And I think that's a good sign for a couple other guys who made some gains in the ballot this year, notably Felix Hernandez, all-time Mariners
Mhm.
great, and Dustin Pedroia, who he's my all-time favorite player. I'm not going to try to hide the bias there. Uh, he was the guy that I loved when I was a kid and still love him today. So for Felix, I think he went up like 19% or something like that. So he's up around 60%. You need 75 to get in. You get 10 years to do it. It was only his second year on the ballot. That's a trend that tells me Felix Hernandez is going to be a Hall of Famer within the next 4 or 5 years. Whether it's next year or not, um, probably not. That's back to back really big jumps, but we have seen the benefit of like relatively weaker ballots, right? We've seen a lot of legends get in over the course of the last 10 years, and now the ballots are not quite as strong with like the all-time greats. And it leaves room for more consideration for guys who I think deserve it for their peaks, right? Felix Hernandez for about 10 years was just absolutely awesome. The I know Randy Johnson had a better career overall, but I think the all-time best Mariners pitcher would be Felix Hernandez. He's the king, and uh, I'd be so excited for him to get in. I'd be really excited for my brother and all the other Mariners fans out there. And then Pedroia, he's a less obvious case. He had the highs. He had an MVP. He had a Rookie of the Year. He won multiple World Series, a lot of Gold Gloves, but like just kind of a not that long of a career. It was cut short due to injury. But he went from 10% last year to 20% this year. So he doubled his support, and that doesn't sound like a big deal when you're that low, but Andrew Jones, his first year on the ballot was like 7% or something like that. And by this is like year 8 or 9, he is already in now. So like I think there is room for optimism with guys like Dustin Pedroia. Next year should be interesting. The only like real potential surefire Hall of Famers, which I don't even think you could say surefire, but I think at some point they might get in. Buster Posey and John Lester, but not like super legend heavy. Again, so I think it leaves room for these guys that are maybe borderline and I think should get in because honestly, if you look at the history, you know, us young fans are not necessarily good at keeping the history, but like they used to let like way more people into the Hall of Fame relative to how many players there are. Like the percentage of players that made the Hall of Fame used to be way higher in like the OG days in like the 30s. And now we're like much tighter with it. We have such a high standard, and I think the standard should be lowered just a little bit, and like let these guys who maybe weren't legends for 20 years but were legends for 10, they deserve their shot too. And I mean, we're seeing that trend, and I like it.
Yeah, 100%. Um, I love, it's an issue. I can speak mostly towards the football side of this with Hall of Fame stuff, but like it's an issue you see sometimes where there becomes like log jams at certain positions or for baseball just in general, like you said, with like a lot of like big legends only coming through in the last few years. There's these log jams that occur where players kind of get stuck and can almost like lose opportunity. And you're seeing that because, we're coming out of a generation of wide receivers in the NFL that we see maybe like all of the all-time greats came out of like a single like generation or two in the NFL for the wide receiver position. And we've got guys who are surefire Hall of Famers by every statistic who are going on year 4, 5, 6 of not even making the finalists because other guys are just that much more deserving as well. So it's Hall of Fame stuff is always so interesting to talk about, and the way baseballs works is so fascinating to me. I don't know that I love it or hate it. It's just it fascinates me. But yeah, those are cool guys. Like these are cool names. These are people who I do like. I wasn't a baseball kid, but I remember these names. Like I knew who Dustin Pedroia was. I knew who King Felix was, right? King Fisher, and Andrew Jones, like I knew who these guys were, and so it is cool getting to see these guys make some momentum and kind of not make a name for themselves because obviously they're Hall of Fame candidates. But like they get some momentum going, and that's fun. And I'm happy for you, and I'm happy for Mariners fans. Um, but yeah, so that's that. I mean, obviously off-season baseball outside of the free agency and trade market, not usually a ton else going on. I think pitchers and catchers report in like 3 weeks. I believe it's like 20 something days or maybe 20 days.
We're
Um,
sneaky close to doing our division previews because that we do that 6 weeks in advance of the season, and we're approaching that pretty quickly.
yeah, which is crazy to think about. Like that feels crazy. But looking forward to it. We had some good ones and we had some bad ones last year for sure. Um, But we'll head into our I always it'll trip me up every time. I'm never going to say this smoothly. We'll head into our titular segment
Hmm.
with dingers and stingers. Shout out Dallas once
Didn't think
more.
segment would be the word you'd mess up in that
Yeah, I was
phrase.
really confident thinking about titular. I kept thinking, okay, titular, 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 and then I said it's segment. A classic me. But yeah, we're gonna head into our titular segment, dingers and stingers. We'll go ahead and start with the stingers. We'll start with the negatives. Drew, I'll take it away.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched our football episode or if you pay attention to football at all, this is no surprise. But my stinger is going to be Bo Nix breaking his ankle in an epic playoff win. We were riding so high for a minute from winning that game, um, and then the news comes out, like an hour or so after the game that Bo Nix broke his ankle and will miss the remainder of the season, however long that ends up being for the Broncos. And it's just a gut punch, like to get this close, this far, to have the advantage of being the one seed, um, to really feel confident in these matchups, and then just to lose the most important player on the field. And if you watch our football episode, you'll know it's not a death sentence. We'll see what happens. I share my thoughts in more detail over there, but I mean, how could it be anything besides my starting quarterback breaking his ankle right before the AFC Championship game? So that's going to be my stinger.
Yeah, that feels fair. like that feels fair. Anytime one of your star players gets hurt right before the biggest game of the season, feels fair. For me, my stinger this week is the Rams and kind of the inevitable brain drain that happens every year. Every team just wants the Rams coaches, and they want us. They want a piece of us, and this year, I mean, there's no exception. We've got four total coaches right now who are interviewing for coordinator or head coaching jobs. Um, Two on offense and two on defense. So there is a chance that we're losing quite a bit. One of our assistant GMs is currently interviewing for an open GM role. So losing from the front office as well. So there's just the brain drain continues. It happens every year, and somehow, McVay seems to defy the odds of brain drain and continues to build successful teams. But we'll see. It's just it sucks because you grow to love these coordinators, and then all of a sudden it's like a year or two in, and they're gone, and you're just like, oh, it's kind of the bummer part of having a great head coach.
Yeah, I mean it's the price you pay for being the envy of other organizations.
Yeah,
That's how it goes.
it's a first world
Um,
problem, certainly.
yeah, but it is a bummer, because
Yeah,
Broncos are, potentially going to run into something similar. Some of our coordinators are candidates for these jobs. We'll see if anything actually happens with that, but yeah,
yeah,
it's always a little scary. Who's going to come in to replace them if they do leave?
yeah. Well, speaking of Broncos and more football, uh, what's your dinger for the week? What's feeling good?
I mean, it's a dinger that you sometimes forget exactly how massive certain things are. It's been 10 years since I've seen the Broncos win a playoff game, and then they did it last week, and it was an awesome game. It was like the best Broncos playoff win I can remember. We've played some good playoff games in my lifetime, but we're on the losing end, like that Ravens one back in 2012 or whenever that was. And then like a lot of the playoff wins we had under Peyton Manning were like not the most exciting games. So uh, to not have won a playoff game since I was 19 years old, and now um,
Dang.
now I'm 29. That's the math for you. And I've got to see the Broncos. I mean, I've been married for 5 years. I've been with my wife for 8 years, just about, and or nine, no, almost 9 years. And that was the first time she's seen me celebrating a Broncos playoff win. So it was a big one for me. So that's gonna be my dinger, was watching that game and getting to experience a playoff win for the first time in a long time.
Uh, for the fans here, I want to add some context for you guys. That dating that far back, that means the last time the Broncos won a playoff game and you were celebrating, me and Drew in Dallas lived in a single bunk bed.
No, this was earlier. This is even before the triple
This
bunk.
predates the triple bunk?
This was when we lived on this is some insider knowledge when we lived on Puck together, our floor in the dorms in college. Um,
Dang, sophomore year, bro.
yeah, sophomore year of college, me and shout out Pastor Pete, Peter Williamson, uh, locked ourselves in my room to get away from all the non-Broncos fans in the world, and we watched the Super Bowl together. Um, but it's been 10 years is a sneaky long time. It
That's
doesn't feel that
crazy.
long ago, but yeah, it's
That's crazy.
different world. I mean, we've been seeing all the it's like an Instagram trend, like life in
Post
2016,
2016.
and Broncos had won the Super Bowl. That's the
Yeah,
last time.
that was the last Peyton Manning year, huh?
It was like the
Yeah.
2015 season, but yeah, it was like the 2026
Yeah,
2016
Super Bowl.
playoffs and Super Bowl.
That is actually insane. We're gonna move forward before I get weird and existential. My dinger for this week, um, it is also football related, guys. Sorry that this is happening. We're gonna talk football a little bit in this baseball episode, but good things are happening for baseball on the pod. Um, Seahawks Rams is this week, and this is one of the few times that I'll ever get to say that this is a win-win no matter the outcome for me. For those of you that don't know, Sam Darnold is a non-blood related cousin of mine. His aunt married my uncle. I don't know if you can see the resemblance because there is none. Um, but we love Sam on this podcast. We've got some USC fans on this podcast as well, and it's just overall, we love Sam. Go Sam. Uh, he also happens to be the franchise quarterback for Dallas's team. Um, bitter rival of my team, and now we're meeting in the playoffs for the chance to go to the Super Bowl. So on one hand, my favorite team can go to the Super Bowl. I love. On the other hand, my cousin gets to go and play quarterback in the Super Bowl. I love. Either way, I'll be insufferable for the next few weeks because I'm going to talk about it regardless. So my dinger for the week is I'm going to have fun with it, right? Like either way, I'm going to have some fun with it. So I'm very excited for this game, and I cannot wait to see what happens because no matter what, I'm rooting for the NFC.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be next week's show. It's going to be fun. It's either going to be Dallas is really happy and also Matt is kind of happy, or it's going to be I'm Matt's really, really happy, and then also Dallas is really sad.
Let me be very clear. I've been saying this a lot this week to almost like try and convince myself like I should be happy even if the Rams lose. Because there's the very, very real possibility that it's hard. Like that's just gonna be
No, I
tough.
mean, like when the Broncos got their ass kicked by the Seahawks in Super Bowl 48, going into that Super Bowl, I was stoked because my brother's favorite team is the Seahawks. I rooted for the Seahawks. They were like my NFC team, and I was like, oh
Mhm.
great, like it's either way, it's good. And then they beat us so bad that I've never been able to look at the Seahawks the same way, and I'm just like am pissed every time I see their logo. So um, I'll be I'll be happy if the Seahawks lose, but I'll be happy for Dallas if they win. I'll say that. He's my
Yeah,
buddy, so I hope he's
yeah.
happy, but not
Sweet
that
boy.
much.
Sweet, sweet
Um,
boy.
and my brother, of course, my brother Luke. Shout out. I know he
Yeah.
has never listened and never will, but he's still my brother. He's a punk.
He's a punk. He was witness to the triple bunk. Uh,
Yes,
honorable shout out, honorable mention for a dinger as well. Will Myers is back with the Padres, everybody.
playing first base.
He's playing first base.
No.
No,
Uh,
yeah, he's joined the front office, but Padres fans everywhere rejoice. He is one of the most like beloved Padres players. Um, but yeah, so that's that. Thank you guys so much for watching. That is going to wrap our episode. Please, guys, like and subscribe, comment, let's talk. I mean, guys, we want to know what are your thoughts on the moves that have been happening. Who do you think is this mystery player who's going to be moving to the infield and shaking up their roster? We want to hear from you guys.
Luis Robert.
So yeah, it's Luis Robert. He's actually the one going to be playing first base. Um, yeah, 20 million first baseman. Love it. So he's going to be moving. But guys, like and subscribe. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Spotify. Any of the places you like to watch or consume or, turn your brain off. We want to be there, fill in your background noise. So yeah, we'll see you in the next
See you
one.
next one. And Dallas will be here, so it'll actually be a better episode.
Guys, Dallas makes us better. Bye.
Bye.